What's up, dudes? Welcome back. Today I'm gonna get started on doing the brakes. So the first thing I want to address while I still have daylight is finally installing this brake reservoir here. I left this off last time. I just kind of put it in and didn't bother connecting anything, but I have this hose here finally with the correct clamps. I know from factory it didn't have any clamps, but I guess while I have it out, I might as well just add it in. This is, I think, just over a foot of material here, and they said that it should be enough to cover this entire setup. So I just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 short little pieces. So I'll just divide this up into 6 pieces and then clamp everything up. This is all done. All the clamps, all the hoses, they're all tightened down all the way up to the master cylinder, so we shouldn't have any more leaks. I already went all the way around, front, back, left, and right, all of the bleeder screws, just to make sure they're all closed before I start pouring some of this brake fluid in here. I got DOT 3, that's what they recommend for this car, I guess. And that's exactly what I was trying to avoid. Of course. Messy guy over here. So that overflowed because I wasn't paying attention. Looks like I actually forgot to tighten this brake line over here because it was leaking a bit. So I got that sorted out. So far so good, nothing else is leaking. Now I'm gonna start to actually bleed the brakes. I have this Mighty Vac automotive test and bleed kit that I used last time. Normally you would have somebody inside pumping the brakes while somebody's over here opening and closing the valve. But this one worked out for me pretty well last time, so I'm gonna reuse it again. Now when you're bleeding brakes, the rule is you wanna start with the wheel that's furthest away from the steering wheel and then work your way closest to the steering wheel. Or not steering wheel, the master cylinders. So in this case, it would be my passenger rear. Then I'll move over to the driver rear, then passenger front, and then driver front. Here we are at the bleed screw of the passenger rear drum. And this is gonna be the adapter I'm gonna be using. So that's connected like that. Now in this gun here, I don't know if you can see that, but I am gonna be pumping it until it has like negative pressure going through the pipes here. I'm gonna open this valve, basically sucking all the air out of all the lines. Okay, this gun actually really sucks. No bueno. I'm actually just gonna use the original way of doing it myself. So I have this hose connected to the back, and I have it connected to this bottle with a little bit of fluid in it, and I have the valve a little bit open. Now I'm gonna go inside and just start pumping, and as it pumps, air is gonna come out here, and it's not gonna wanna go back in because of the fluid. So I'm gonna go inside and start pumping, and you should see some bubbles right here. So that actually worked out pretty well. You could see the bubbles actually coming over here, and it did tip over, but I'm not really too concerned because it did block more air from re-entering the system because there's still fluid here. And as I watched that video, you can see a constant flow of fluid going through here. So most likely there's not a lot of air left in this line. So I'm gonna move on over to the other side and then on the other two in the front. And then after I'm done with those, I'll probably just go through the whole thing all over again. Make sure the reservoir is always topped off. Now moving over to the driver rear, I'm gonna actually watch it as I pump the brake pedal here. You're gonna see, but actually I still have to open the valve. That should be enough. Let's see, maybe it's not, oh, it's actually leaking. Turns out it was just the way that I put this hose in. So I put this clamp right here so that it doesn't leak again. Now I'm gonna put this wrench here and loosen it just a tiny bit like that. You can see the fluid moving right there. The rears are done. Moving on to the fronts, and I think I've decided that I don't really like to bleed brakes. I mean, who really does? This really sucks. It's messy and it's just inconsistent, but yeah, gotta move on. So the fronts are a little different in that there's two bleeders screws here. I think that's normally on just aftermarket ones. The factory ones are side specific because the bleeders actually have to be on the very top. Even though these are interchangeable, like you can kind of bolt it up on the other side, but you want to make sure the side that you're going to bleed, the bleed screws have to be on the top. The aftermarkets usually have them on both sides just so you can kind of interchange them left and right. So I have this hooked up and I'm just going to do the same process. And then up for the last corner here, the front driver's side, I also realized I forgot to put Teflon tape on the bleed screw here and on the other side, so I had to do that real quick before it started to kind of leak out of the hole. So I'm gonna do this last pump here. It's actually starting to feel really stiff so far, so I think I have most of the air out. Okay dudes, it's the next day and the brakes are fully bled. I'm pretty sure it's okay now, I think. I mean, it's pretty solid when I push this. Like, there's a lot of pressure in there, so I think we are good. Part of the reason why I wanted to wait overnight is to see if there's any leaks underneath any of the corners, and I think we're okay. There was a slight leak here under the master cylinder, but that was from yesterday, which I've already taken care of, so we're good there too. The emergency brakes, I've already adjusted those as well. I just did that off camera because something like that takes some time also, and there's a lot of DIYs already, so I didn't really want to cover that. But like this, we are still good here to spin this, and then when I pull the e-brake, then it gets real tight. So we are good. And then the absolute last piece here that still requires a bit of attention is this reservoir, because it's still leaking underneath, and it's not these clamps for sure. I've opened this up like a couple times and the rubber gasket in there has gone pretty bad, and they don't really sell these by themselves. Instead you have to buy like a whole new reservoir, and I don't want to do that. So I don't know, I'm gonna figure something out and I'll probably just do that off camera, but it definitely needs to be fixed because this is just leaking all over the place. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one.